Stream for this Monday afternoon. I'm Pugs Moran. We do this each and every day, Monday through Friday. We talk about hot topics. We talk about current events. We talk about trends. We talk about all the things that are buzzing around in the world. How are you today? Hold on, let me get settled here. It's been a long weekend, and I had everything set up last night. I had the kid this weekend. So as weekends where I have the kid, I have to take the equipment apart, set it all up last night, got it all ready, and then walked in here today and realized that I didn't have it all ready, that there was a very important part of this whole operation that I did not have plugged in. And okay, we're having problems with when last we spoke, I was having problems with the charging. I run this show off a computer that does not work if it's just plugged in. You know what? You guys don't need to know this. So we're on a timer. We're on a timer until this computer goes dead. And then, you know what? That's how this show is going to go now. This show will go as long as the show computer decides it's not charging. This is insane. This drives me nuts. I hate this so freaking much. This is a brand new computer that has only been used for this show. I think it's Dell. I have two Dells, and both of them. There we go. Now we're charging. Now will it remain charging? I'm sorry. Hey, this is what happens on a Monday, right? Tomorrow, promise, smooth as silk. It's all going to be great. All right, we'll leave that like that. We'll see if that charges. This one isn't charging, though. This one is this one going down? How is it that when you plug in your computer, okay, so it's a laptop. Yeah, I know. I'm explaining why I'm late, Jeff. Jeff's first in the chat room. Always with the negativity. Not always, but, why not? Hey, better late than never. That would have been an optimistic spin on it. But no, late today with a sad face. Putting that negative energy out there. Let's work on that. All of us. Let's work on that negative energy that we unconsciously just spew. Hi, April. April's here. Okay, so here's what I don't get, people. Help me out. Before we get into what this show is about, I don't understand how this happens with both of these Dell computers. Okay, so they're plugged in. The icon is showing me that it's plugged in. You know the battery, how when you plug it in, it goes whoop, and you get the little icon. It's plugged into the wall, but then it says, plugged in, not charging. Okay, so why isn't it charging? And why isn't it? Why it's plugged in? Okay, so you think that, well, I don't have to worry about it not charging right now because it's plugged in and I should be fine. Nope. It's still, even when it's plugged in, it just goes bloop, bloop, and the power level shrinks. That's what happened the other day. I'm sitting here doing the show and I see that it's plugged in, but it's not charging. And so whatever, I'm just going to finish. I'm going to motor through the show. I got not a care in the world do I have. I'm not even worried about it because, it's plugged in. And why does it need a battery? It's plugged into the wall. No. Nope. Somehow it being plugged in means nothing. It's very upsetting. Very upsetting to me. All right, let's get on with what we do here on today's show. As I said, it is... I almost called the show mansplaining. Oh, my God. Okay. Oh. Hey, what an up and down weekend. Saturday mansplaining sucked. Don't worry. Schwartz and I know it sucked. There were technical issues. We had problems. We couldn't do the show we wanted to do. Last night's show, though, we loved last night's show, mansplaining, every Saturday and Sunday nights on 97.1 The Freak. Last night was fun. Last night we had a good show. We had wonderful. Tried to plan a couple of callers. Look, you can't do it. I mean, this is a huge favor. I mean, and when I say a plant caller, this is a little trick that I learned from Loveline. I saw this. So the mansplaining show that I do on The Freak, it's myself and Dr. Schwartz, and it's a partnership between our financial backers and iHeart. We're trying to recreate what Loveline was, but the spin on it is that the 25-year-old who was listening to Loveline 25 years ago is now 50. Maybe 25 years ago he called in and said, I'm worried that I got my girlfriend pregnant. Well, now that very same guy is in his 50s. He might be calling in saying, I'm worried my daughter is pregnant. It has never been attempted before. The entire caller-driven advice format has been, throughout the history of talk radio, one of the most can't-miss type shows that are out there. They've never been targeted towards men. Never in the history of it has been a male targeted thing. It's always been teenagers or housewives. That's what the advice and the thinking was. And this is kind of, old timey thinking that men don't talk about it. Men don't. Well, the idea is, and the consideration that went into this was that, well, that's kind of different. I mean, men are much different now. I mean, people go to therapy, people have issues, people are talking about their mental health. Maybe it's time for a radio station. And let's be honest, every radio station in America is looking for men over 40. Look, I know if you're a 23-year-old woman, they don't care if you're listening to radio. You know why? Because you shouldn't be listening to radio, because no one under 40 uses this technology anymore. So radio as an industry has decided we're only going to go after the people who are too stubborn to learn the new technology. We're going to be able to milk this industry for another 20 years as 40-year-olds age into, basically, like my kid is 13. He doesn't even know what radio is. He's like, what? He's like, you got to sit through commercials? Wait, you mean you just randomly listen to the song? It's not a song that you've decided you want to listen to? I'm like, yeah. That's how you got surprised. It's how you learn new things. That's how people hipped you to new cool bands and stuff. Nah, he's not into that. And essentially nobody of his generation, or really a large, all the way up into, a big section of the millennials. They just don't listen to radio. So don't get mad. Don't be like, hey, radio, why is it all classic rock and right-wing talk in sports? Because that's what men like. Because that's what men like. That you're going to have, every city is going to have 4 radio stations that play an endless array of Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, and Grand Funk Railroad. That's because that's the people who they know are willing to listen to radio. That's what they want to hear. And so, look, anybody who likes new music, anybody who likes hit radio, or top 40 radio is still doing okay, although not to the extent that it was doing 20 years ago. People now, hits are made by Spotify, hits are made by different platforms and Apple Music and all that kind of stuff. Hits aren't necessarily made because San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, and Miami all started playing the same song at the same time and everybody liked it. That's how hits used to be made. You'd correlate what markets you would play a song in, and then you'd see how it does in those markets, and then you'd add more markets, and anyway. So the idea with mansplaining is just that. It's that maybe guys, we need to go after men, because that's all radio stations are interested in. And what is a unique, non-divisive, non-sports form of talk that men might be interested in? So that's what the entire idea behind the Mansplaining Show is. It's us and iHeartRadio doing a whole, let's try and reinvent the whole love line thing. Now, I am certainly in no way, shape, or form an Adam Carolla, but Dr. Schwartz is way better than Dr. Drew. Dr. Schwartz is funny. He kills me. So anyway, I was listening to this great podcast. I don't know where if I can find, I don't know if I've got it saved. It was a while ago. I'll have to check my bookmarks. I've got so many. It was an Adam Carolla podcast, and he had Dr. Drew on, and they had the original producer of Loveline on, and they were talking about how they had to do the exact same, the thing that we do, which is, we try to plan a couple of callers. We call people. We say, look, do you have a question? Do you have something you want to talk about? Can you call into the show? And they do. And if they don't, then we just give them something. We give them something that we want to get into anyway, an issue that we would just organically start talking about. And we say, why don't you just ask us about this and get us rolling? The audience, as it was explained on the Carolla podcast, maybe it wasn't the Carolla. It was Adam Carolla, Dr. Drew, and the original producer, but maybe it wasn't Adam Carolla's podcast. I don't know. Don't chase rabbits, Pugs. You're chasing rabbits. Stay on the story. And they were talking about how when they began the show at K-Rock in Los Angeles, how none of the listeners knew how to participate. They didn't get what they were supposed to do. So for the first 6 months, they just had to load up the callers with not necessarily actors, although it was LA. So I'm sure there were a lot of actors or people who fancied themselves actors portraying callers. But that's just how it's done. That's just how you got to teach the audience. And we on Mansplaining have been lucky because although we do a number of plants, a number of people that, already know they're going to call in, so we know we can rely on it. we have been getting a lot of actual organic calls, which is a really good sign for the show moving forward. So we're pleased by that. The other thing that I'm pleased by is that the response to the show has been great insofar as people have been really, oh, welcome back, but that's kind of becoming a problem. I mean, we love that the phone lines are lighting up with people going, where's Kelly? And no, it's so good here. But that's not really, we can't take those calls. So if you were someone who called in and participated in that way, is the computer dying? Nope, we're good. I apologize, and I really do appreciate the sentiment. It is very nice hearing from all of you, but that's the thing. So, programming note, which is a long way of saying this, we are on Friday night this week. I mean, we eventually hope, we intend for the show to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. But, while it's being developed, we're sort of staying out of the spotlight a little bit, just trying to, but we are going to be on this Friday night on 97.1 The Freak. We are not going to be doing a show on Saturday. There is a Mavericks game. So if you want to check out the show, and maybe weekends are a little bit not good for you because you got a life or whatever. Friday night, 9 to 11, me and Dr. Robert Schwartz will be doing mansplaining, and we'll be taking your calls. We need your calls. So if any of you guys want to help out, and by the way, if you've got an issue, I don't necessarily want to know the issue. Don't surprise us. We want it to be as organic as possible. But for Friday night, because it's a different night, we're gonna ask some of you guys to participate. So if you're willing to participate and help me out, and this is a really, really big ask, I know, but it's appreciated. It is appreciated. You can hit me up right there. mansplainingradio@gmail.com. 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 You can hit me up there if you're willing to participate on Friday night. Again, if you don't have something, we'll find something. And if you do have something, just let me know. Yeah, I got something for you guys. Then don't tell me because we want it. We need to work on that muscle. I mean, I always hate having things like, I think the brilliance and the beauty of live talk radio is the unexpected. And I mean, look, I guess there have been people who have been very successful doing their entire show scripted, where the next 15 minutes, exactly what the person on the phone is going to say. And then the host has a really great line that seems like he's so witty, but the caller was set up and the line was written ahead of time. And, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there are a lot of people in American radio who have gotten very successful doing that kind of radio. And I've never liked it. I've always thought that the organic, true moment between a host and a caller or a listener is what makes it great. And no, it's not going to be a home run every time, but sometimes it's a walk-off. Sometimes it's just great because it's natural. So again, if you want to help us out, mansplainingradio@gmail.com. Just drop me a note. Say, yeah, I'd be willing to participate. And it would really help me out a lot. I would really appreciate it. We really need a lot of help this Friday because it is a different show. It's a different time slot. And we don't even know if the people who normally call in on Saturday and Sunday are going to be listening. So if you can help us out, it's a Friday night, bigger spotlight. We got to make the show sing. We can't have another situation like we had on Saturday night. Saturday night, there were problems with the phone. And, oh, God, we couldn't take the amount of calls. It was rough going. All right, let me check on this computer to see, because it looks like it's dying. No, it's not. This one is holding steady. This one computer is plugged in. It's not charging. It's plugged in, and it seems to be holding at 46%. So we're good. All right, that's Friday, a special edition of Mansplaining on 97.1 The Freak. Anything else? Oh, yeah, mansplainingradio@gmail.com. I gave that. But also, if we're friends on Facebook or if we're friends on Twitter or whatever, just DM me. Just my DMs are open. I don't have any. I'm not. Nobody bothers me. So just feel free. Hit me up. Even if we don't know each other, just hit me up. And if you want to participate, it would certainly be a very, very big help. What's that? Schwartz is in the chat room. Yes, Schwartz. We don't speak of last Saturday. No, we do not. All right, let's get into today's show. Let me get y'all prepped up on everything that's happening. It is high noon for the 13th day of October, year of our Lord 2022. It's the 290th day of the year. Did you know that? Did you also know that 75 days remain until the end of the year? So get those New Year's Eve plans started. Let's go through history. This is how we do this show. We run through the events that make this day special, make this day memorable. We then move on to birthdays. We celebrate the births, the contributions of people who were born on this day. And then we mourn a couple of deaths. And today, it's not really. The deaths, it's a good day not to die. It is a good day not to die because not a whole lot of big names in the deaths today. But let's get into it. On this day in 1091, this is ridiculous. On this day in 1091, the London tornado of 1091, a tornado thought to be the strength of an F4, strikes the heart of London. So I clicked on this because how do they? 1091? How do they know? Here's the deal. They say it could possibly have been the most powerful tornado ever to hit mainland Europe. Well, of course it could possibly be that because it's 1091. And do you know how much a story changes over 1,000 years? You know what I mean? It's not like we have like ancient cave drawings of like weather maps and storm fronts as they came in. We don't have that. This is all just, hey, it was probably just a tornado. It probably just did a little damage. I mean, this is 1091, but then like 100 years later, because they don't have a lot of tornadoes there, it became like the tornado. So over the course of 1,000 years, all of a sudden, it's probably by today's standards an F4. Or it was just like windy. 1777, on this day in 1777. Speaking of the British, during the American Revolutionary War, British General John Burgoyne surrenders his army at Saratoga, New York, 1777. 1781, in the American Revolution, British General Charles, Earl of Cornwallis, surrenders at the siege of Yorktown. There you go. There you go. It's a good day for the quitting Brits. That's it. And I say that I say that happily as an Irishman. Good day for the Brits to be losing battles. On this day in 1907, Marconi begins the first commercial transatlantic wireless service. They say Marconi invented the radio, and then other people say, no, he didn't. So I don't know. We just go with it. Look, the awards for broadcasting excellence that are given out every year, they're called Marconi, so I don't see that changing. But on this day in 1931, Al Capone is convicted of income tax evasion. Al Capone. I don't really have any Al Capone hot takes. All right, let's move on. 1933, Albert Einstein on this day fled Nazi Germany and moves to the United States. Their loss, our gain. Although we learned last night on Mansplaining, somebody just threw out there that he was in love with his cousin. Is that a thing? I don't know. Is that a thing? The person who said that says a lot of things that I go, is that a thing? On this day in 1979, Mother Teresa is awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. We also mentioned Mother Teresa last night on Mansplaining. I'm sorry. I'm battling like this weird combination of sinuses and allergies. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty catching my breath. Oh my God. You guys, if I drop dead on the stream, share it. The fuck, man? Come on. If I die on the stream live, you better blow this shit up. Just saying. Help me out here. Oh, also maybe get in touch with some sort of authorities. Maybe call the Highland Park Police Department and say, hey, although you don't know where I am. I don't know. I'll die for my art. That'll be good. On this day in 2018, the recreational use of cannabis is legalized in Canada. Okay, so there you go. Good for Canada. Good for Canada. I don't have many Canadian hot takes. Let's do some birthdays. Born on this day in 1902, Irene Ryan. You know who she is? Irene Ryan is Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. Irene Ryan, fun fact, was 61 years old when she started, or when she was cast for the Beverly Hillbillies. 61! Granny! When I was a kid looking at Granny, I thought, holy cow, is that woman old? She was like the oldest woman I had ever seen. No, she was only 61. She was only 61. And I don't know if they made her up to look older than she was, or if people just looked older then. I think it might be a little bit of the both. Born on this day in 1915, Arthur Miller, American playwright, screenwriter, Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, uh, a guy who does not share my belief that Marilyn Monroe is overrated. Although maybe he does, because they weren't married for a very long time. So maybe he does. But in the beginning, he definitely did not think that Marilyn Monroe is overrated. Is Arthur Miller the guy? Okay, so what is the order here? Do you guys know? I think she left Joe DiMaggio for Arthur Miller. We're talking about Marilyn Monroe. I think she left Joe DiMaggio for Arthur Miller. Although it may have been the other way around. But I think it's Joe DiMaggio to Arthur Miller, because you go, what? Like, Joe DiMaggio was like, they're two completely different types. That kind of tells you that she's nuts, right? Because Joe DiMaggio was a big dumb jock. He was a big dumb jock, right? Mr. Coffee. Sure, he looked good in a suit in his 60s when he was doing those Mr. Coffee commercials, but he was essentially just a big dumb jock. And then Arthur Miller was like the direct opposite of what Joe DiMaggio was. I guess when you're someone like Marilyn Monroe and you have the pick of the entire litter of men, because who wouldn't have married Marilyn Monroe back in 1959, right? I mean, well, me aside, I think she's overrated. I'll go to my grave with that belief. But so I guess when you have that many options, you can sort of taste all the flavors at the Baskin Robbins. And that's what she did. Joe DiMaggio, straight to Arthur Miller. Born on this day in 1920, Montgomery Clift, American actor. He died in 1966. He died very young. Montgomery Clift, if he had not died, I think he died at like 45 or something like that. If he had not died and he had gone on, he would have been one of the absolute, I mean, he is, as it stands, one of the great and most beloved actors of that era. But man, did he die young. Also, fun fact about Montgomery Clift, one of the first semi-openly gay actors in Hollywood. Now, when I say semi-openly gay, I mean that because certainly it wasn't written about, and it was speculated, like Hollywood Confidential and all that kind of stuff would speculate about it. And the studios worked overtime to make America think that he was in a relationship with Elizabeth Taylor when really, they were just really good friends. But when I say semi-openly, it's because in Hollywood, like around his friends at Hollywood parties and stuff, he was in a relationship for a period of time with Roddy McDowall. Remember Roddy McDowall? Cornelius from the Planet of the Apes? Love Roddy McDowall. No, it's Anthony Perkins. I always get Roddy McDowall and Anthony Perkins confused. Anyway, he was also Montgomery Clift in a relationship with Harold Robbins, who was like a playwright. And I think he did West Side Story. And fun fact, Harold Robbins says that Montgomery Clift is the reason for West Side Story, that he came up with the entire idea, and that Harold Robbins was, that's a good idea, I'm going to write that. There you go, Montgomery Clift. Nobody really knows who he is, but he was... what did he do? What was his movie? He did one really good war movie that I saw. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, moving on. Also born on this day, Evel Knievel. Born on this day in 1938. Oh, did I love Evel Knievel. One of my he was to my like little 6-year-old heart, he was a cooler, more relatable Elvis. He was like as big in my world as Elvis was. Like if you had said to me at 6 years old, who's a bigger international star, Elvis Presley or Evel Knievel? I'd have gone Evel Knievel. I mean, no doubt. I mean, everybody I know loves Evel Knievel because I was 6. Evel Knievel was such a fascinating guy. I mean, look, he's probably lucky that he passed away about 10 years ago now or something. I can't imagine Evel Knievel would have done well in this area. I mean, I'm just saying, Evel Knievel, he had opinions. He didn't seem to have a filter. There was nothing governing his next hot take. You know what today, if Evel Knievel was still alive, he'd be jumping over Trump rallies. That is probably what he would have been firmly in that side of the world, which is fine because I find him very funny. But he died. He probably died before all the Me Too stuff could come out about him. I'm sure there's all kinds of good Evel Knievel stuff. He lived to be 70. That's probably a lot longer than anyone expected Evel Knievel to live, right? When you do that for a living, that's pretty good. You are out kicking your coverage if you live to 70. Also born on this day, 1947, Michael McKean, Lenny of Lenny and Squiggy, also lead singer of Lenny and the Squig Tones. Yeah, that's a real album that came out, Lenny and the Squig Tones. I had it like 1978. It was Lenny singing, and Squiggy was also there. But Squiggy didn't really do much. It was just all Lenny and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. Michael McKean also, Spinal Tap. God, how can you not mention Spinal Tap? How can you not mention Better Call Saul? He's Saul's brother, his older brother, who had that weird disease where he couldn't touch anything or whatever it was. I don't know. Michael McKean. Honestly, Michael McKean is one of those underappreciated awesome guys. I really like Michael McKean. Born on this day in 1948, crazy lady alert, Margot Kidder. That's right, the original Lois Lane. Margot Kidder, born on this day in 1948. She went a little nuts. She had some issues. She had some bipolar disorder. It was never diagnosed. She had never had any treatment. She had always just kind of, I guess, been a bit troublesome in her life, and it was just always overlooked because she was an attractive actress. And then, she hit 40, and all of a sudden these crazy little behaviors, these antics, they're not quite as accepted. And so that's when she found out she has bipolar, and that's the reason that she died in 2018. I'm not sure what she died by. Dare we see what Margot Kidder died from? Because it'd be tragic if it turns out to be suicide or something like that. But she was sick, I think. I think she had a whole bunch of. All right, she died on May 13th, 2018. Let's see what her death is about. Kidder died on May 13th, 2018 at her house in Livingston, Montana at the age of 69. She was found unresponsive by a friend. The cause of death was initially not released. Her agent stated that she passed away peacefully in her sleep. Well, that's pretty much all we can hope for, right? I mean, that's the way to go. While in the days following her death, her friend Jeffrey St. Clair wrote, "I've been struggling all week with the image of Margot lying helplessly on the floor of her house." On August 8th, 2018, it was reported that Kidder's death had been ruled a suicide by intentional overdose. Okay, yeah. Well, okay. We knew she was, she knew she had issues. Born on this day in 1948, umbilical cousins with Margot Kidder. George Wendt. Norm! George Wendt. Boy, that guy went to the bank on one roll, right? George Wendt. I mean, he probably, he hadn't really worked since then. He probably made a really nice chunk of change during the height of Cheers. And it really did nothing else. He's Gilligan. He got Gilligan. George Wendt is Norm. That's interesting. That's an interesting topic. Maybe we'll do that on Pillow Talk. People who are known as just one character. That's it. They never got to do anything else. George Wendt, Norm. That's a good one. Gilligan, of course, is the top of that. Gilligan, Bob Denver. Bob Denver was such a bitter guy. The only work he could get was, if he was at 70, he'd put on the white hat and the red shirt and go to some convention. That was like the only work that poor Bob Denver could get. Born on this day in 1957, Steve McMichael, American football player, wrestler, sportscaster, member of the 85 Bears, Mongo, whatever his nickname was. Steve McMichael celebrating a birthday today. Unfortunately, Steve McMichael is battling, I think it's ALS. It's either ALS or MS. It's a big cause celeb in the city of Chicago because he's beloved. He's much beloved there. Is the way here in Dallas, maybe a guy like Randy White or I don't know. I guess I couldn't really think of anybody else in either. But he's Too Tall Jones, maybe. He's loved there, and it's a very big issue about the health of Steve McMichael. There's all kinds of benefits going on, and Steve McMichael was a madman. He was a crazy man, but he was a bigger than life personality, and he was approachable. He was always hanging out in bars. He owned a couple of bars. He was a beloved guy. Crazy. I mean, he'd break things. He liked to get drunk and break things because he's a big old hillbilly. But he's our big old hillbilly, and we love him. 1958, born on this day, Alan Jackson, American singer and songwriter. Here's my Alan Jackson hot take. Dated a girl who loved Alan Jackson, took me to an Alan Jackson concert, knew nothing about Alan Jackson, sat through the entire Alan Jackson concert, and on the way out, I said to her, that was pretty good. I actually think I might like Alan Jackson. Fast forward 15 years later to where we are now, couldn't tell you one Alan Jackson song. It didn't stick. Didn't stick. In the moment, I was like, this is kind of fun. Kind of like this guy. I might want to investigate. Never did. Never went back. We broke up. Maybe that was it. Born on this day in 1959, we just lost him last year. Norm Macdonald, Canadian actor, comedian, producer, the son of a bitch and dog. I got to get the dog. The dog is barking. She is apparently not willing to open the door on her own right now, so go to bed. And I know after these endless interruptions, some of you may be saying to yourself, Self, why doesn't Pugs just bring the dog in before he starts the stream? That's cute. That's cute because you think this is a dog that listens to anything anybody says. If I were to, just before we go on the air, make an attempt to bring the dog in, the last thing that she would want to do is come in. Why? Because I'm asking her to come in. That's how dogs work. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. She'll just run the other way. But 10 minutes later, 39 minutes later at this point, while we're doing the show, the dog is like, hey, I want to come in now. Norm Macdonald. That was a loss. That was a loss. He was so great. He was so great. How old was Norm? He wasn't that old, right? Why isn't this? Hold on, I'm having a little bit of an issue here. Born on this day in 1962, the great Mike Judge. Mike Judge, ladies and gentlemen. Who doesn't love Mike Judge? Mike, here's what I like about Mike Judge. His body of work speaks for itself. He has quietly been one of the most consistent creators of comedy and just fabulous content on all different kinds of platforms, whether it's animation, whether it's films, whether it's digital, whether, he's really good. He's a really fascinating guy. Proud Texan too, I might add. I love Mike Judge. You love Mike Judge? Mike Judge draft. We're going to do a Mike. No, we're not. We're not doing a Mike Judge draft. Here's what we're doing. We're going to do something a little bit different. We do a lot of drafts. I thought we'd mix it up a little bit. So here, instead of a Mike Judge draft of his finest works, what we're going to do is we are going to do a UFC MMA boxing style ranking. We are going to give you the top 5 contenders for champion of Mike Judge content. And then I will give you the champion of Mike Judge content. Okay, who's with me? Are we ready? Let's do the official pound for pound rankings of Mike Judge content. Number 5, the number 5 ranked thing that Mike Judge ever did, Office Space. Office Space. Timeless. Although here is something that I made a mistake. I try to watch over the course of my son's upbringing. I am the cultural ambassador to my son. I'm attempting to make sure that he's well-rounded with films and music and all that kind of stuff. I've taken him to plays, I've taken him to concerts, all that kind of stuff. That's sort of my lane. His mom does all the hard stuff and all the difficult stuff. And, I get to do the fun stuff. That's just the way the chips fell. Anyway, I didn't mean to be so dismissive like that. I mean, he's got an incredible mom and a wonderful stepdad, and but I try to find my lane. So I made him watch like 2 years ago, Office Space. He was probably 11 at the time. Didn't resonate. I failed to calculate that the kid who would be watching this humor has never held an office job. For a brief time at 8, he worked for IBM, but other than that, he did not. He didn't get the jokes. He was like, he was more interested in the characters and the portrayals and those silly things and the way that the characters portrayed themselves than he was the actual jokes in why Office Space was so great. Number 5 in the pound for pound Mike Judge content rankings, Office Space. Number 4, Silicon Valley. HBO's Silicon Valley. Tremendous series. I've got to rewatch Silicon Valley. That is one of the things. Guys, I don't know if I've told you about this, but now that I'm like an old man, there is nothing new that I like. It is so rare for a new show to come out and I go, oh, I got to see that. I'm just saying. There's very little. As a 50 plus middle-aged white man, they're not really targeting me anymore. And hey, whoa, I get it. That's fine. I get it. This has been the way. Apparently, I don't go to movies anymore. Apparently, I don't want, all those things that they have calculated as to why they don't care if the content they create in Hollywood matches me. That's fine. Whatever. So what I've been doing is I've just been re-binging things that I liked, things that re-binging shows, as show after show. Silicon Valley's coming up. I typically what I will do is I will binge 2 1-hour dramas at a time. I'll give you an example. I am currently I just finished The Sopranos and The Shield. I am currently now re-binging at different parts. I'm like on season 3 on one and season 1 on the other. I am rewatching The Americans from FX. I've just started that. I'm about 7 episodes in. Love that show. This is the second time through for The Americans. And Boardwalk Empire. I'm rewatching Boardwalk Empire. I'm in season 3 of Boardwalk Empire, so a little bit further on. But what I do is I binge 2 1-hour shows, and then I binge 2 half-hour shows, because sometimes I just want to watch a comedy, and sometimes. So the comedies that I'm currently binging is I'm making my way, and I'm almost done with Curb Your Enthusiasm. And then the other one is Community. So I'm rewatching Community and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now, here's what I'm going to start. As soon as those finish, I'm going to move into Silicon Valley next. Silicon Valley is going to be rewatched, and I also think Eastbound and Down. I think Eastbound and Down is something that I need to revisit. Number 4 in the pound for pound Mike Judge content championship rankings, Silicon Valley. Number 3, Beavis and Butthead. I mean, you might think that it should be higher. You might think that, but I love Beavis and Butthead, but it only makes 3. Number 2 on the Mike Judge. Yeah, number 2 on the Mike Judge pound for pound championship contenders list, Idiocracy. Love that movie. I have to watch that movie. That's a movie, you know what? It's just dawning on me now. That's not one that I'd ever considered that I need to introduce my 13-year-old son to. But I will. I was too busy introducing my 13-year-old son to Scarface this weekend. We watched Scarface. He liked it. And you know how fun it was walking around all day Saturday afternoon? We went to a kid's football game, then we went out after that. Walking around on Saturday afternoon with a little 13-year-old kid going, "Jut on, man, jut on." No, I mean, he could not stop being Tony Montana all day long. Yeah, fun times. Idiocracy, number 2 on the Mike Judge pound for pound list on today, Mike Judge's birthday. Number 1, the number 1 contender for the championship strap in the Mike Judge content pound for pound contenders list. Number 1, King of the Hill. King of the Hill is the number 1 contender. King of the Hill is the number 1 contender. I love King of the Hill. But here's the thing that I realized about King of the Hill. King of the Hill was canceled by Fox because it was never a ratings winner. It was never. It was a great show. Look, we all who love it, we know what a great show it was. But here's what I think I noticed. I think that living here in Texas while that show was on, it was far more popular here in Texas for an obvious reason, that it was about us. It was, we were watching. Same reason that like Shameless was a Showtime show that did all right nationally. People seem to like it. But in Chicago, Shameless is like, oh my God, that's us. So it's a much more relatable to the people of a certain region over another. But King of the Hill was great. I loved King of the Hill. King of the Hill, the number 1 pound for pound contender for pound champion. So you got to be asking yourself, Pugs, he did Office Space, he did Silicon Valley, he did Beavis and Butthead, he got us Idiocracy, he also mentioned King of the Hill. What the hell did Mike Judge also do that would be the champion of everything Mike Judge has ever done? I'm going to tell you, and maybe you haven't seen it. And maybe, I don't know where I can see it. I've been trying to rewatch this damn thing forever. Mike Judge did an animated series a couple of years back for Cinemax called Mike Judge Presents Tales from the Tour Bus. Now, here's the premise of the show. Mike Judge is like a big music fan, and he loves music history, and he specifically loves the stories of crazy hijinks. Whether it's whether it's, Led Zeppelin with the shark fish and the groupie, that whole thing, or whether it's George Jones and his crazy drinking exploits. He loves these stories. So what Mike Judge did was he went with a film crew and himself as the interviewer, and he sat down with all of these people who knew all of these big time icons of music, mostly country, Southern rock is what he focused on. And he just made a documentary. He made a documentary where he sat down and he interviewed these people. Then he took the documentary film footage and he animated everything. He just literally, the guy is sitting there being interviewed on camera, and then the way you see it on the episode is he just drew everything. It's so good, man. There are YouTube clips. You need to, just to get an idea of how brilliant this show was, go to YouTube and just put in Mike Judge presents Tales from the Tour Bus. There was only one season, and it was amazing. It was on every Friday night, and I remember just holding my breath all week going, oh my God, we got a new tale from who are they doing this week? This week it's Johnny Paycheck. Oh, Johnny Paycheck is, by the way, my favorite one. I think he did one on James Brown. I think the James Brown was fun too. But oh my God, is it great. So fascinating. If you're interested in, music history and the crazy days of the 1970s and no holds barred groupieism and all that stuff, Mike Judge presents Tales from the Tour Bus. Look it up. It's on YouTube. It is so funny. It is such a well done show. That is the champion. That is our Mike Judge draft. No, Mike Judge power rankings. No, Mike Judge contender list. That's what we're calling it. I don't know. Happy birthday, Mike Judge. Born on this day, Wyclef Jean. Fugees. I like the Fugees, and then the Fugees were gone, but we still got Wyclef Jean hanging around, so happy birthday. Born on this day in 1972, Eminem, American rapper, producer, and actor. This would have been something, we could have easily done an Eminem draft, but I thought when I started to do an Eminem draft, I thought I shouldn't be the one doing an Eminem draft. I should text my kid and say, give me your 5 favorite Eminem songs, because Eminem to my kid is what Bruce Springsteen is to me. Eminem, my kid thinks that Eminem walks on water. He just loves everything that he does. And because he didn't come to appreciate Eminem through music radio in the hit singles that, many of us of our generation came to know him for first, he just jumped into the Eminem catalog and just started listening to everything. So when you say, what's your favorite Eminem song? And it's like a song I've never heard of. I'm like, you don't know that one? No, I don't know that one. It was never played in the radio. I think there's a song called Rap God with Juice WRLD that Eminem did. That seems to be the one that my kid likes the most. And because it's hard to rap and my kid always practices rapping it, there's a pretty good chance my kid's going to try and be a rapper. I'm fine with it. I love it. Any expression of his creativity is good. He's a very creative kid. Born on this day in 1974, John Rocker. I was just talking about Eastbound and Down. Kenny Powers, the HBO series about the baseball player who was banned from baseball for being a drug addict and a bigot and a complete moron. That's based on John Rocker. That's right. The story of Eastbound and Down, Kenny Powers, is based on John Rocker. John Rocker was a pitcher for most famously the Atlanta Braves. Lights out reliever. I mean, he was good in his day. But he didn't have a filter, and John Rocker had opinions, and he would spit hot fire. Shall I remind you of some of the things that John Rocker said in an interview with Sports Illustrated? This was ground zero for the John Rocker scandals. Scandals again. Asshole say what? I mean, that should be the response when somebody like John Rocker says what he says. Asshole say what? I mean, oh, his ability to earn a living needs to be taken away from. Stop it with that stuff. Let the market bear that out. Anyway, I digress. Here's what he said to Sports Illustrated when Sports Illustrated asked if he would be interested in playing in New York City. He said, I'd retire first. It's the most hectic, nerve-wracking city. Imagine having to take the 7 train to the ballpark looking like you're riding through Beirut next to some kid with purple hair, next to some queer with AIDS, right next to some dude who just got out of jail for the 4th time, right next to some 20-year-old mom with 4 kids. It's depressing, man. The biggest thing I don't like about New York are the foreigners. You can walk an entire block in Times Square and not hear anybody speak English. Asians and Koreans and Vietnamese and Indians and Russians and Spanish people and everything up there. How the hell did they get in this country? John Rocker from just around the turn of the century, just around 1999. And, he said that, and then he still pitched. I mean, there was controversy. Do you know what John Rocker said? But he was still out there, he didn't get fired for that. Imagine somebody tries to say that today. That's hysterical. That is crazy. He also referred to his teammate, Randall Simon, as a fat monkey. Which, it's problematic because apparently he was heavyset and he was of darker skin. So there's that. Then in 2002, while here with the Rangers, I remember this. We were on the air when this went down. John Rocker went to dinner in Oakland. He went to dinner in the neighborhood. And he didn't like what he saw here in Dallas. In 2002, while with the Rangers, Rocker again made national headlines for his views after directing slurs towards patrons of a Dallas restaurant at which he was dining, located in the heavily LGBT-populated neighborhood of Oakland. If I remember correctly, two people were holding hands. He's like, "Hey, don't you hold hands." It's just awesome. He just, no filter. He's just total garbage human, just spouting shit. Good for him. Look, you want to project yourself as a garbage human. I think that you're allowed to do that. And I think I'm allowed to go, you're a garbage human, and make fun of you. What I don't think I have the right to do is, say, I think the person who pays you shouldn't pay you anymore. Okay. Look, if how many people are in America? What do we got? 2 million? Let's just say 2 million. There's more than 2 million. I know, I'm just trying to keep it a manageable number. So let's say there's 2 million people in America. If 1.5 million people in America had a problem with it and started taking to the streets, then yeah, he's done, because how can you make money if that is associated to your brand? If that guy is, you can't. But the fact of the matter is that he said all of these things and there weren't protests in the streets. What there were a number of groups who were known to have platforms that would, and God bless these groups. They have every right to exist as well. They're allowed to do their thing. Somebody says something shitty, there should be another person going, hey, that was shitty. And then what results from that little exchange is how you judge the situation. But the fact of the matter is that the Texas Rangers had no problem picking up John Rocker in 2002. Long after he did he's sitting next to a queer with AIDS and foreigner, they had no problem. So obviously their metric with their brand was that was not going to be a problem that this community had. So if this community has no problem with a guy like John Rocker who says those things, and let's say a community in New York City does have a problem, well, tough. You're not in Dallas. You're not a Texas Ranger guy. You let the Texas Rangers deal with this. That was another issue that I had with the John Rocker situation. He was suspended by the league. That's some bullshit. You should have been suspended by the Atlanta Braves. If it was really a problem, it's the Braves who should have stepped up. The league shouldn't come in and mandate these things. I mean, certainly not for speech, regardless if you consider it hate speech or not. And I absolutely consider that hate speech. But I think it's good that people are spouting out hate speech. I think it's better than the way it used to be, where they'd smile in your face and then they'd have their closed door meetings underneath their hoods. Out yourself. Let me know who you are. What's that? Isn't it a Toni Morrison quote? When someone shows you who they are, believe them, right? It's okay. So good. So say all the shitty stuff you want to say, and I'm just going to go, you're a garbage human, and move on. I don't understand this lust for blood that we have for everybody. If what person is saying is truly offensive, then let the market bear that out. But in the case of John Rocker, as I just said, the Texas Rangers decided that, hey, our market is going to be fine with this, and they brought him in. It's not a thing that happens 20 years later. That was in 2002. Now, enough people on Twitter decide that you're a bad guy and your career is over. irregardless of what the specifics are or the level of whatever it is that you've done. It's a completely different. And look, I would never, I don't use the word woke mob as fat. In fact, I hate the word woke. I hate the way the word woke is used, because I would consider myself woke. I mean, all that means is that, yeah, I'm aware of the struggles of other people. At least that's how I interpret it. But the way everybody using it for everything, it's like, what's and I'm talking about, I'm talking about people on the left, just like I'm talking about people on the right. It's an absolutely maddening phrase. Whenever I see someone go, well, I don't like them because they're woke, at that point I go, oh, you're an idiot. Okay. And I just move on, right? Because what exactly does woke mean? They said something that you didn't like. Oh, poor baby. I hate that. I hate it. But John Rocker being suspended by the league never felt right with me. If anyone was going to suspend him, it should have been the people who pay his paycheck, who were the Atlanta Braves. They're the ones who should have had the problem with it. But I got to be honest, what John Rocker said about New York City in that Sports Illustrated issue probably didn't bother the Atlanta Braves fan base at all. Now, when he travels to New York to play the Mets, he's going to have to put up with the repercussions of his comments. And you know what? That is what the market bears. That is an end result of him shooting his mouth off. He brought it on himself. No problem with that. They want to throw batteries and pennies at him, which they did. Whatever. That's going to suck for him. Well, maybe he'll learn to keep his mouth shut, or maybe he'll learn to understand that you can't just spout off this bullshit without any kind of repercussions. But the league suspending him? Are you kidding me? Let that fall to the team that actually pays him. Happy birthday, John Rocker. Oh, by the way, he's crazy too, by the way. He's like completely off his rocker now. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. Off his rocker. You get it? Felicity Jones is also celebrating a birthday today. Felicity Jones falls into the category that I put Keith Urban and John Legend in. Keith Urban sounds like somebody who should record soulful R&B ballads. Baby, ooh, I'm Keith Urban. John Legend sounds like he should wear a cowboy hat and be singing about pickup trucks. See, but they're not. They're the direct opposite. John Legend is the R&B guy, and Keith Urban, the names don't match. Felicity Jones is like that too. You know how long? It was like for a year, I thought Felicity Jones was the black lady on Saturday Night Live. I had no idea she was this tiny little petite British actress. I had no idea. Felicity Jones sounds to me, she should look different than her name suggests. Remember my partner Kelly? If you remember partner Kelly, she had a boyfriend. He was a football player, and when she told us his name, he was a pro football player. He was a lineman. She said, "Yeah, I'm dating. He plays for the Cowboys. His name is Tyson Walter." I immediately went, Kelly's dating a black guy. Isn't that interesting? We could talk about that on the show. That ought to be interesting. No, he wasn't a black guy. Tyson Walter was a white guy. That to me sounds like a name that I would assume based on, my cultural awareness and living in the world for all this many years. If I'm taking a shortcut to imagine somebody based on their name, I would not have pictured the person that actually showed up, which was a big white kid from Ohio. It doesn't sound like that. Felicity Jones, happy birthday. I thought you were the black lady on Saturday Night Live, and now I know different. We do have a couple of deaths. Not big ones. Joey Bishop died on this day. Joey Bishop died on this day in 2007, American actor, talk show host. Joey Bishop was the guy, if you know anything about the Rat Pack and, all of those famous days during the shooting of the original Ocean's 11 in Vegas, where they'd shoot. It took like a year to make Ocean's 11 because they would shoot for like 2 hours between like 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Seriously, they would shot this movie in like 2-hour increments because it was just Frank Sinatra and all of his buddies just hanging out in Las Vegas. So they would shoot for like 2 hours in the middle of the day. And then at 4 o'clock, they would all retire to the steam baths where they would all just sit around. And then they'd go back to their rooms and then they'd maybe have dinner and then they'd perform a show, the famous Rat Pack shows in Vegas that's, I don't know, maybe you've seen clips of. Joey Bishop, 100% responsible for all of that. Joey Bishop was the only one that was working. Everybody else was just boom, 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 being Rat Packers. Everybody else was just being Sammy, being Frank, being Dean, Peter Lawford floating around. They weren't doing anything. everything the Rat Pack did on stage was, surprisingly, much of it was scripted. A lot of people thought, they're so good at improv. No, they're not. They're doing what Joey Bishop told them to do on stage. Joey Bishop, never as big as the rest of the guys in the Rat Pack, but definitely a member of the Rat Pack and the architect of most of their stage performances. Dead on this day, 2007. Dead on this day in 2009, Elijah Cummings, Maryland congressman, American politician, civil rights advocate, born in 1951. Elijah Cummings died on this day in 2019. Was that the COVID? Did the COVID? No, it couldn't have, right? Because celebrities didn't start dying from COVID until 2020, right? It was called COVID-19 because it was detected in 2019, right? But really its impact was felt in 20 and 21. And, I still see people wearing masks, which, hey, cool. Do you, man? No problem. I held on to the mask for a while until probably about 7-8 months ago. Here's what I still don't, I saw this recently. I saw a dude alone in his car wearing a mask driving down the road. You're alone in your car. I'm telling you, there are these people who have just become mask fetishists where alone in your car, you're alone in your car, man. Look, God love you. You have concerns about what's going on. That's your right. You're allowed to have concerns. You're allowed to take precautions when you go into Target or when you're going to be around other people, but you're alone in your car, just motoring down the road. Why are you wearing a mask? I don't get it. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe, I don't know. But there's nobody else in the car. Do you have it? Then I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm not a doctor. All right, let's get into all the things that are trending today. Let's run through some of the trends, get y'all prepped up so you know what's happening in the world today. Bank of America is trending. Bank of America is trending. Why is Bank of America trending? Oh, because Bank of America is making a lot of money. Bank of America has exceeded expectations in their quarterly report. In fact, they exceeded it by quite a bit. We really misjudged that. Nah, you know, and I didn't. I knew you guys. Inflation, the rest of us struggle. Of course, the banks are going to figure out a way to make money off the rest of us struggling. So Bank of America, there you go. You had a good earnings report today. Trending number one. Parler is trending number two. Parler is Twitter for the Klan, right? That's basically it. That's why Parler was a thing that people were talking about, and then it was just so crazy and just so stomach-churningly gross. Some of the things that were allowed on there, then, got a bad reputation, and it was kind of sidelined by the general public. I mean, look, not a lot of people are on Twitter or on Parler. I mean, certainly not compared to like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, but it's got a right to exist. Again, I say all of these things have a right to exist. People want to go there. Good. And you know what? Buy yourself a Parler t-shirt from the store and then wear it outside so that I know that you're one of those people. Those are fine. Those are fine. Tell me about yourself. I'll listen. I'll make a decision on what I think of you. If you're comfortable telling me about yourself, I'm comfortable listening. Parler is trending because Kanye is buying Parler. Tell you. I don't know for how much. They haven't released the numbers, but Kanye was kicked off Twitter and Instagram because Kanye's going hard on the Jews. I don't know. So now Kanye is going to take over Parler, and I mean, is the thought? I don't know. Let me tell you something. What do I always say? You got to separate the art from the artist. All right? Because if we're going to stop liking everything because it turns out the person who created it was a weirdo or maybe an objectionable person, we're going to severely limit the amount of joy we let into our life because a lot of amazing things were created by some incredibly bad people. That's just a fact. So I'm pretty ardent about my separate the art from the artist. Kanye is really starting to test that, though. I mean, the more he sort of dabbles in what is clearly, to me, a form of anti-Semitism, it becomes even harder. Like, if Hitler put out an album that was really good, That's kind of what this is turning into. Oh, you're comparing Kanye to Hitler, huh? No, of course not. And I hate that. I hate when people compare. Hitler killed 6 million people. No, he didn't. Did you guys know that my co-host, Schizophrenic Me, was a Holocaust denier? Had no idea. Are you a Holocaust denier? No. Okay, good. So Parler. That's why Parler is trending. Steve Bannon is trending, former advisor to the President of the United States and fat, sloppy Elton John. That's what I call him. He looks like fat, sloppy Elton John. And Elton John is fat. He's just not sloppy. But when Steve Bannon tries to dress up, like when he tries to look good, he's hanging out with Roger Stone. So like sometimes he'll do a little bit of, what do they call it? Dazzle or whatever. Like he'll do a little something. Doesn't work for him. He just always looks like a disheveled, fat, sloppy Elton John. But Steve Bannon is trending because Justice Department is recommending that he serve 6 months in jail and pay a $200,000 fine for defying the January 6th committee's subpoena. I mean, look, I've been scratching my head for the last year going, I didn't think you could defy a subpoena. A bunch of people are defying subpoenas from the Congress. Dude, Sam Giancana, Joey Gallo. I mean, some of the most mobsters have been subpoenaed by Congress and against their will showed up to testify. It's crazy. And so maybe I have that wrong. Maybe they're I don't know, there's some legal loophole that modern lawyers have, been advising their clients that you can get away with not showing. So Steve Bannon did that. Steve Bannon defied a congressional subpoena. And now he's going to look at 6 months in jail. 6 months in jail and a $200,000 fine. So there you go. All right. That's why he's trending. Serial killer is trending. This is all right. So we're going to spend a little time on this story because I love my serial killer news. Serial killer or believed possible serial killer has been arrested in Sacramento, California. The police are saying that they caught him on his way to hunt another human being. Police arrest a suspected serial killer in Stockton. I'm sorry, I said Sacramento. It's Stockton. Any city in Los Angeles that isn't San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, or San Diego is just Sacramento to me. To me, everything else is Sacramento or Bakersfield. I also throw that. Dateline. Stockton, California, a man suspected of killing 6 men and wounding a woman in a series of shootings in Northern California was arrested before dawn on Saturday as he drove through the streets of Stockton armed with a handgun and possibly searching for another victim. Investigators began watching the suspect. They were watching. They had like a tip on him. This is like we see this in procedurals where like Law and Order, where they've got a tip, and so now they're going to tail the guy. Well, this guy was being followed by cops. He didn't know he was being followed, and apparently, what he was doing was he was driving around at like 2:00 in the morning, and he would pull into he'd pull down alleys and going really slow, and then he pulled through a parking lot and seemed to be looking for something. And it was a hunting. He was hunting. At least that's what the police are saying. Investigators began watching the suspect after receiving tips and stopped him in a car at about 2 a.m. in Central Valley City, where 5 of the shootings took place. Police Chief Stanley McFadden said at the news conference, Wesley Brownlee, 43 of Stockton, was dressed in black, had a mask around his neck, had a gun, and, quote, was out hunting, said Chief McFadden. We are sure we stopped another killing, he said. Okay. It wasn't immediately clear whether Brownlee had an attorney to speak on his behalf. He was expected to be arraigned Tuesday on murder charges. A police photo showed the black and gray weapon allegedly carried by the suspect. It appears to be a semi-automatic handgun containing some non-metallic materials. All right, there you go. Wesley Brownlee, 43, Stockton, California, busted serial killer. They believe he's tied to 6 murders. 6 murders and possibly more. They just got to put it all together. Here's an interesting little fun fact about this. He's a black dude. He's the rare black guy serial killer. I'm not going to call him the Jackie Robinson of serial killers because I believe there was a guy in the Chicago area named Alton Coleman who I was obsessed with as a kid because he was running around the country killing people. And so Alton Coleman was a black guy too. And my childhood was My childhood was filled with like local boogeymen, like people like started with Richard Speck. You guys know what Richard Speck is? Wikipedia. Weird guy. Killed a bunch of nurses. Richard Speck like killed a bunch of nurses not far from my house when I was just like a baby. Actually, maybe just before I was born, but the specter of Richard Speck was still around. Richard Speck's gonna get you. Who the hell's gonna say that to an 18-month-old baby? But I've got that memory. Anyway, Richard Speck was scary when I was really little. And then we had Gacy. And then, like, when I was, in my prime boogeyman fearing age, I was probably 7 or 8. John Wayne Gacy, a couple towns over, he starts popping up, and I'm like, oh my God. And then everything, Gacy's gonna get you. And then in my early 20s, Dahmer. There we got Dahmer. But sprinkled in between all of that, I remember the horrors of Alton Coleman. I remember the Tylenol killer. Remember that guy? I had to deal with a headache for like 3 years between 12 and 15 because I couldn't take Tylenol. Tylenol was the only thing that really worked for my headaches. You can't take Tylenol anymore because the Tylenol killer was killing people. Anyway, there you go. Serial killer, Stockton, California. He's in custody. Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is trending. Bubba Wallace is a race car driver, a NASCAR driver. Got into a thing with Kyle Larson yesterday at a race. Apparently, Bubba Wallace was forced into the wall. Kyle Larson bumped him, shoved him right into the wall. Racing fans, I'm not a NASCAR guy, but I am an F1 fan, so it's not really the same thing, but it does look like it would have been on Bubba Wallace to give up his position for a moment to avoid or to allow Larson to go through. At least as far as F1 goes, NASCAR might be different, but as far as F1 goes, I would have, if those were Formula One cars, I would say that in the incident between Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson, that it would have been Bubba Wallace who needed to give up his position. The faster car. You have to make way for the faster car. Well, he didn't. He didn't give up his position, and Kyle Larson had the faster car in that moment. And so I don't know if it was accidental or if they're saying that it was on purpose, but he nudged Bubba Wallace into the wall. Both of them went spinning out. And then Bubba Wallace jumped out of his car and shoved him. We had a scrum. We had two drivers getting into it right there on the apron, or a little bit off the apron, I guess. So that's why Bubba Wallace is trending. Kanye West is trending again. Parler is trending because Kanye's buying it. Kanye West is trending again because apparently he's going around. All right, so this is why he's trending. Kanye West thinks that George Floyd died from fentanyl and not from being kneeled on for whatever period of time that was. Again, people can say and think whatever the hell they want. If we have made the miscalculation of giving a lunatic a much higher platform than that person probably should have, that's on us. We made Kanye a star. We put him up there. We amplify everything that he says so that when he says stupid shit, oh God, he's hating on the Jews. Now I spent a few minutes recently trying to really figure out what Kanye West's play is here with the White Lives Matter shirts. I mean, he seems to be openly attacking the feelings and points of view of the people who buy his records. So I'm like, what is this? Is a weird calculation. Now, in the studio, lock Kanye in a studio, I think he's a genius. Outside the studio, I think he's a lunatic who seriously needs to be medicated and needs to be under a doctor's care. There's something crazy going on with this guy. So as I said, I considered Kanye West. I'm like, what is this mad MFers play here? What is he doing? What is he scheming that I don't see? There's got to be some reason. And I quit. I did for like 3 minutes. And I went, he's just bipolar. He's just kind of, we're going to learn in a number of years, something really bad's going to happen. And maybe he, doesn't survive. Maybe he does. But, I think 60-year-old medicated Kanye West, I want to hear what that guy has to say about the Kanye West of this era. Because, I know the signs. Well, look, it doesn't matter. Oh, do you know the signs? No, look, we all know that he's a little bit wacky, and the people who are in his life, who have been in his life, who are now sort of on the outs of his life, they're all saying, dude's a nut job. The dude seriously needs it. He believes that he is, well, I mean, he really does believe that he's some kind of deity, like he's some kind of, and that's the way he carries himself in his personal life. And all these people who have been jettisoned from his everyday life, who used to be close friends, marriages, women, they're all saying, look, the guy, don't make fun of the guy. The guy's got problems. This is not going to end well for him. Kanye West saying that George Floyd died because he was a drug user. He was a fentanyl guy. All right, there you go. Here's another bad guy, Paul Haggis. Paul Haggis is trending. Paul Haggis is a director, great director, a lot of good movies. What movies did Paul Haggis do? All right, let me see. I can't off the top of my head think of any Paul Haggis movies, but I know that he directed a TV show that I like. Paul Haggis filmography. All right, let's see. Let's see what Paul Haggis, before we go into the story so you get an idea. Oh, yeah, Crash. I love that movie, Crash. $1 Million Baby. Yeah, that's right. He wrote $1 Million Baby. Crash is a good movie. Crash is weird, though. You gotta be prepared for Crash. What else did he do? Am I missing something? Oh, yeah, I know what it was. He created a television show on NBC called The Black Donnellys, which was a really good show. It was a really interesting show. Olivia Wilde was one of the stars of it. The Black Donnellys was a great show from probably 15 years ago. Aired for like 7 episodes. Nobody watched it. And I was like, that sucks. Paul Haggis is trending because, he's being accused of rape. And it's one of them deals where it ain't just one person coming out and going, hey, raped me. No, it's like a whole bunch of people. Like a whole bunch of women are like, yeah, he raped me. Which, I've got, here we go. So how do I word this? How do I word this so that you understand that I'm trying to be thoughtful here? I'm not trying to be provocative or, over the top with my hot takes. But I have a problem with when someone like Paul Haggis is accused of these crimes that are career enders. He's being accused of being a serial rapist. Maybe it's, I don't know. I do not know. He's being accused of being a serial rapist. Paul Haggis, charges brought against Paul Haggis. And then you read every single one of these, and it's not just Paul Haggis. This happens across the board. Paul Haggis. Well, who's bringing these charges? Accuser Jane Doe 1, Accuser Jane Doe 2, Accuser Jane Doe 3. I don't think that that's right. I don't think that it is right to be able to drag an accused person, innocent till proven guilty. I'm sorry. He is innocent. These are charges. He is currently, as of right now, innocent of these charges. And we know and we understand the court of public opinion. We know that Paul Haggis, rapist, we know that is going to damage his reputation, whether he could be completely exonerated. And it doesn't matter because people half paying attention will be like, I'd seen that movie. He's a rapist. Now, I get the idea of, the victims, they have a right to anonymity. Well, okay. I think that's probably fair. I think that a victim should be allowed to bring these charges without fear of any sort of blowback from the public. But then you also have to make him John Doe number 1. You can't have the guy who's being accused have his life destroyed by accusations, and then the people bringing the accusations are allowed. Make it it's got to be fair. We can still pursue these charges. This doesn't mean that he gets off scot-free. It just means that as far as the court documents are concerned, he's not named. It's John Doe number 1, and the charges are being brought by Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, Jane Doe 3. In your best mindset, try and consider how that's fair. How that's fair that, we believe women. No, we do. We listen to women. We don't believe women. We don't just flat out believe women. We listen to them. We listen to them and we take them seriously, and we make sure that they know that there is a place that they can go if they have these incidents where they can talk about it. But we just don't outright believe them. I'm sorry, this idea that all women who bring these charges are all angels, that's unfair. That is totally unfair, because we know that there are many, many women who are, especially when it concerns somebody of stature, influence, power, money, when it concerns, when the person being accused has, something to lose, something that might be lost to the accuser. I mean, that's a motivation. That is a motivation for a duplicitous individual. Women aren't duplicitous. Women are every bit as duplicitous as men. This idea that men are always, and I am not defending Paul Haggis. In fact, I'm reading all the details. It seems like he's a rapist. It seems to me like Paul Haggis is guilty of this. What I'm defending, or what I'm pushing back on, is the idea that, what if it was another case? What if it was me, right? What if, or me? I mean, not that I'm not famous, but you know what I mean? Like, what if it was, I'm trying to pick somebody, you see this with sports athletes, where these girls who are known to be hotel lobby dwellers at the hotels where the teams stay, the girls who all hang out in the bar, suddenly, they've been raped. We listen to women. We take them seriously. We don't dismiss them. We let them know that there is a process and a way that they can make their complaints known, and they can achieve justice for whatever it is that happened to them. We listen to women, but we don't just believe women. We don't. And we certainly don't just believe women to the extent that we say, Paul Haggis is a rapist. Paul Haggis is being accused of being a rapist. He's probably a rapist. Paul Haggis is a rapist. Oh, who's bringing the charges? Oh, we can't tell you. We wouldn't want to put her in that position. Okay. I don't want to put her in that position either. So let's agree that she needs to stay anonymous. That's fine. A woman should be allowed to remain anonymous when she brings charges against somebody. But the person should also be afforded the exact same protections, because innocent until proven guilty. So that's my issue on this. But at the end of it, I think he's guilty. I mean, I've read the stories. He seems like a real creep. He seems like a guy who probably needs to be locked up for a period of time. Hearing aids is trending. This was weird. I saw this trending, and I didn't understand why it was trending. And then it's just such a stupid reasons. Hearing aids are trending because apparently now they're available over the counter. Why weren't they always available over the counter? What would the reason for hearing aids to be by prescription only? What would the reason be? We don't want fakers hearing too good. Like, what are they worried about? What is the downside of hearing? It's not methamphetamine, it's not like it's not bottled cocaine for pharmaceutical. We're talking about hearing aids. If somebody wants to, use a hearing aid that doesn't need, anyway, big news today. Hearing aids are now available. Let's all run down to CVS. We can buy a hearing aid. Why were they ever prescribed? Why weren't they always just... I don't get it. There's a lot of things that are prescription only that I don't get. Like, I don't get why Viagra's prescription only. That's a rather specific complaint. I'm just saying. I just don't understand why you can't go and buy a bottle of Viagra. Why do I don't get it. Jason Aldean and Maren Morris are trending. You guys know who Jason Aldean and Maren Morris are? I mean, I know they're famous. I know they're country singers, but I don't. So apparently, what's this deal? Jason Aldean has a wife who has opinions on social media, as many of us do. She has opinions on social media, and apparently, Jason Aldean's wife got into a bit of a Instagram or Twitter, whatever, I don't know, spat with Maren Morris, who is another country singer, right? So you got the wife of Jason Aldean getting into it with Maren Morris, who is a female country singer. Now, what's this about? This is about Jason Aldean's wife having some hot takes, that Maren Morris didn't like. Concert goers booed after Jason Aldean name-dropped fellow country singer Maren Morris at his Nashville gig following a feud between Maren and Jason's wife, Brittany. Brittany. There's so many Britneys out there, man. I'm telling you. The amount of Britneys have ruined a theory that I had for a long time. Okay, so I'll give it to you. So my two theories are that every Heather in the world is attractive. Every Heather. You've never met a Heather that wasn't attractive. And every Britney is attractive. That was Britney came in a little bit after Heather, but I first noticed in the 80s and the 90s that every Heather was attractive and oftentimes wildly attractive. Heather was an attractive girl's name. I have never seen a Heather that I found to be unattractive. And the case was the same for Britney. There were Britneys. Every Britney I knew, Britney wasn't, quite as popular a name as it is now. That's been shot. I've met a lot of Britneys that are like, like the female version of me, right? I'm like, you shouldn't have that name. You shouldn't. I think on the guy end of that, is there a guy equivalent to my theory that every Heather is attractive? Brad, something like that. Would that be like Brad? I know a lot of Brads who are attractive. I mean, not just famous ones, but like, I don't know. Anyway. All right. So here's what they fought about. Remember, this is Jason Aldean's wife, Brittany. Oh, who, by the way, is a hot Brittany. She's a hot Brittany. Jason Aldean ain't married to no unattractive Brittany. All right, so let's view the tweet. So I want to make sure I read the tweet because I don't really get this. Maren Morris and Brittany Aldean feud explored. Okay, let's figure this out. This all comes after Maren and Jason's wife Brittany got involved in an online feud following comments made by Brittany. Billboard reports that Brittany Aldean, Jason Aldean's wife, took to her Instagram stories in August this year to share her thoughts about transgender youth. There we go. Oh boy. All right. So Brittany Aldean took to her Instagram to just, wax poetic about transgender youth. Here's what she said. This is what Brittany Aldean, wife of Jason Aldean, said on Instagram. Advocating for the genital mutilation of children under the disguise of love and calling it gender-affirming care is one of the world's worst evils. So, first of all, I would say it's a faulty premise. Genital mutilation of children is a very provocative way to describe this. I mean, genital mutilation, I think of like, tribes in the deepest Africa that, do these things that by today's standards are barbaric. I don't know that is necessarily the right way to frame it, but okay. But she's coming from a position. She's coming from her position and she has chosen to be hyperbolic to this degree. Advocating for the genital mutilation of children under the disguise of love and calling it gender-affirming care is one of the world's worst evils. Okay, again, a bit hyperbolic. I wouldn't say it's one of the world's worst evils, especially since you're only advocating. Wouldn't it be worse if you were the person who was actually mutilating the genitals of children? So she said, advocating for the genital mutilation of children under the disguise of love and calling it gender-affirming care is one of the world's worst evils. I will always support my children and do what I can to protect their innocence. No problem with that sentence. I will second that. I will also always support my children and do what I can to protect their innocence. Absolutely. She goes on to say, love is protecting your child until they are mature enough as an adult to make their own life decisions. Thankfully, my parents allowed me to go through my tomboy phase without changing my gender. Okay, so that's what Brittany Aldean said on the topic of transgender youth. Maren Morris then responded, writing, laughing my ass off. I'm glad they didn't too, because you and I wouldn't have worked out. So that's it. That's all she said. Laughing my ass off. I'm glad your parents didn't, change your gender because you and I wouldn't have worked out. I don't understand why that is so. All right, let's go back to what the woman said, because I do think that she makes an interesting point that I went, I went, huh, that isn't that interesting. If I'm being honest, the whole debate about the gender reassignment and all the child's genital mutilations, that debate is happening exclusively in an echo chamber that I don't spend a whole lot of time in. So I hear this, I see stories on this, I hear people talking about, I tune out. I'm like, you know what? I can't do it. But I'd never considered this angle. And I guess I don't know what ages we're talking about. I mean, are we talking about 10, 11, 12-year-old kids? Maybe let's say kids going through puberty, 12, 13, 11, 11, 12, 13. Are we talking about them, children at that age, being given hormones and stuff because at that age they have decided what they are? I have concerns about that. Look, I'm very open to all of it. I don't have any judgments, but it is true that, I knew a girl. I'll give it to you exactly what Brittany Aldean said. I knew a girl growing up who, I mean, I don't even think I knew what a lesbian was at 11 or 12 years old. But when I think back on this girl, I'd have been like, oh, she's such a boy. When I think of her not as a girl. I think of her as a boy. She played football with us. She had short hair. She used to swear as much as any of us. She was like a member of the Bad News Bears. But when I close my eyes and I think of this woman, her name was Kelly. I think of this woman. I imagine her as a guy. She's just one of the guys. Well, she grew up to be an absolute knockout, a woman. She grew up to be a real woman, and she married and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know if she's still a knockout because she's probably, in her late 40s, early 50s at this point. But the last time I saw her, which was like 20 years ago, was at a friend's wedding, and she was there with her husband. And I was like, oh my God, Kelly Duffy is hot. What happened? How did she get so hot? So taking that into account for my own life experience, if that had happened in, 2022, if she had been the way she was in 2022 instead of 1982, might her parents might they have been, you know what? She's obviously a boy. Let's make her. I don't know. It's a very complicated thing. And I admit I probably need to be better informed about all of this. And I'll freely admit that. But the idea that a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old child is in any kind of a position, or their parents for that matter, are in any kind of a position to make a judgment on what they're going to be as adults, as far as their attitudes, the way they carry themselves, the way they, I don't know. I think that's scary. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Understand what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's scary and it needs to be taken seriously because people change, man. People go through phases. People are, and is it, certainly I don't believe that what's being termed as genital mutilation is reversible. But like the hormones, like if they start giving a kid, are they giving 12-year-olds hormones? I don't know. I don't watch Fox News. All right. I don't know. I can't imagine. I would not be for giving a 12-year-old gender reassignment hormones. I would not be for that. And that doesn't make me anti-trans or a transphobe or anything. No, that just makes me someone who looks at a 12-year-old and goes, that person has no idea the kind of person they're going to be. They are figuring that out right now. Let's let it unfold naturally. So I don't know. I mean, under 18, I think if you get to be 18 years old and you make that decision on your own and you want to start going through it, I don't know. It scares me when they start talking about children because I don't know enough about this story. Like, I am not for 12-year-olds being given hormones. I'm just not. Sorry. I guess that makes me horrible. I don't know. Anyway, that's what the fight's about. So Brittany Aldean had some hot takes. She used some hyperbolic phrasing there, and response from Maren Morris was tepid and certainly not overly aggressive. And now she's being booed at Jason Aldean concerts. I don't know, whatever. Robbie Coltrane died. Robbie Coltrane died on Friday. British actor Robbie Coltrane. He was Hagrid, right? Harry Potter. But he's one of those, to my generation, and I'm not the Harry Potter generation, to my generation, Robbie Coltrane is just this great that guy actor who has been in so many amazing things. It's like, oh, that guy, I love that guy. Oh, cool, that guy's in it. That's who Robbie Coltrane was. But to a whole nother generation, massive star from the Harry Potter movies. And there you go. He's being celebrated around the world. Robbie Coltrane passed away. Let's see here. When did he die? And what did he die of? Was he sick? That's I don't know. He was a heavy guy, right? Older heavy guy, which is rare. Well, actually, how much older? Like, how old was he? Robbie Coltrane's career began long before the first Harry Potter movie premiered in 2001. But for the generation that grew up with the films and the books, it's hard to separate the Scottish actor from his larger-than-life, at least for Muggles, portrayal of Rubus Hagrid, the official keeper of the keys and grounds at Hogwarts. Following the news of his death on Friday, fans of the series and Coltrane's fellow actors took to social media to remember the man that brought the lovable half-giant character to life, with iconic lines including, "You're a wizard, Harry!" Doesn't say what he died. A lot of people. I mean, obviously. Let's see. How'd he die? We should probably look this up. I want to get it right. I know my kid was bummed. My kid's a Harry Potter kid. He was like, oh, he made him sad. And I was like, yeah, really? Okay. Apparently he's much bigger than what he is to my generation. To my generation, he's just that guy actor. Oh, we like him. He's good. He's that guy. But to my kid, he's Hagrid. Robbie Coltrane. Let's see, what did he pass away from? Boom, boom. He's only 6 foot tall. I mean, I know him as Hagrid. Really? You're surprised that they can make people bigger in films? Yeah, no, I guess you're right. Death. Let's go to his death. Personal life death. There we go. I know someone in the chat room has probably already told me what he died of, but this is the process, and I don't want to, On October 14th, 2022, Coltrane died at Forth Valley Royal Hospital in Larbert, Scotland at the age of 72. He had been ill for 2 years prior to his death. Okay, so he was sick. 70 good years, 2 really probably painful ones that ultimately led to the passing of the much-loved Robbie Coltrane. Daughter swap. Daughter swap was trending earlier today. Daughter swap for all you pervs out there. Yeah, daughter swap is a... And I know this because I Googled daughter swap when it was trending. I went, because I cross-reference things to see how many different stories there are. So I was like, daughter swap is trending. Okay, what's that about? And actually, I knew what it was about because there was a little bit of but then when I put in daughter swap, like all of these porno movies came up. Like there is apparently an entire porn genre of daughter swapping. It's just, you know what? Porn is just... It's getting to places. I'm so boring sexually. It's like, I don't understand all of these super amplified porn genres. I'm like, who needs this? Just show me an attractive woman topless. That's all I need. I don't understand why you people you're pushing the envelope. I mean, I do kind of understand because I've read a little bit about this. The generation, my generation, people of my age, we had Playboy. And if you were young, you had to stumble across a Playboy. You had to find it in the garage, or you had to, your dad had maybe a dresser and it was underneath some stuff. You'd find it in there. That was it. We had Playboy. That was maybe somebody, get a hold of something weird like Swank or, Club, something like that, like Hustler. They were a little bit, wild. Penthouse, they were a little bit wilder. But for the most part, I mean, my generation, titillation came... Oh, boy, that's an interesting choice of words. Yeah, so the titillation came from those sources. But if you were like my kid's generation. And I'm not talking about my kid. I don't want to go into that. I don't even know. But my kid's generation, all they've ever had is easy and instant access to the most hardcore pornography. I mean, it ain't Playboy, man. It ain't the same thing, right? I mean, at me as a little kid, we used to go into the library and look at pictures from National Geographic of like topless tribeswomen and stuff like that. That's what we had. But if you are of the generation who has always had access to hardcore pornography, and look, let's be honest, we're talking about people self-pleasuring themselves. Okay. So if that's what you have always had from the first time you discovered this magic little trick with your body, it was because you were watching Pornhub and, you were watching like, an orgy or something. How incrementally as you move through your life, do you keep raising the bar on what gets you sexually stimulated? Is that the reason why we have such weird, like the taboo thing really bothers me? The apparently taboo porn, apparently, yeah, okay. The taboo genre of porn is huge. Like, and it's not, I don't know. It's weird. And I really do think it's an end result of having unlimited options for your excitement at your fingertips. Fingertips, another interesting choice of words. But like me, my generation, like I said, a naked girl topless, like that's all I need. That's it's pretty much I'm good with that. But if a guy, imagine like a 25-year-old today who's been, self-pleasuring himself for, 20, 15 years or whatever it is. He had all of the most degenerate pornography options at his. So where is his head at sexually? Anyway, daughter swap, that was trending, and apparently daughter swap is a very popular genre of porn. I don't know what it's about exactly. I can imagine. But anyway, daughter swap is trending because get this story. So two dads were driving down the road. This happened did it happen in Georgia or Florida? One guy was from Georgia, one guy was from Florida. One guy in a pickup truck. Two men are facing attempted murder charges after an apparent road rage incident ended with a shootout. The Nassau County Sheriff's Office in Florida said that William Hale, 35, and Frank Allison, 43, have both been charged after the road rage incident on Saturday, October the 8th, which lasted for several miles and spanned two counties. So one guy from Florida, one guy from Georgia. Sheriff Bill Leeper said authorities began receiving calls that day a little after 6 p.m. with reports of people being shot at. One witness told deputies he called 911 after seeing two drivers, one in a black Dodge Ram and the other in a gray Nissan Murano, drive so erratically that he thought something bad was going to happen. He described the driver's behavior as a cat and mouse game. So there's a guy in a pickup truck and a guy in a Nissan Murano, and they're just great. They're going in and out. They seem to be chasing each other. Something's going on. They're shaking their fists, I'm sure, honking their horns. Pull over, son of a bitch. That whole thing. Two men, 43 and 35, who cannot control their shit. And they cross paths on America's roadways, and suddenly we had this. Sheriff Leeper, said that Hale, who is from Georgia, was driving the pickup truck, and Allison, who is from Florida, was driving the sedan. Both drivers were speeding, driving erratically, and brake checking each other. That's getting in front of each other and then applying the brakes. At one point, the two vehicles were alongside each other, and Sheriff Leeper said someone in the truck rolled down a window and began shouting at the Nissan to pull over. A passenger in the Nissan then flipped off the people in the truck. All right, so pull over, you son of a bitch. I'm going to kick your ass. And then the person on the other side was like, like that. That's it. Just the flip off. The dude, okay. A passenger in the Nissan then flipped off the people in the truck. Then someone in the truck threw a plastic water bottle into an open window of the Nissan. So the truck is like, pull over. Nissan is like, fuck you. Someone in the truck is like, here, take this water bottle. And they chuck the water bottle at the car. Oh, now we're off to the races. That's when, according to Sheriff Leeper, Allison grabbed his gun and fired one shot at the truck before speeding off. So the first shot, and the person who introduced a gun into this little situation, was the guy in the Nissan Murano, the guy who had just been hit with a bottle of water thrown from the pickup truck. So, of course, he responded, as any rational thinking human being would, by starting to fire bullets into the car. Just a couple of dumbass hillbillies from Georgia and Florida who are so emotionally broken, they're immature, they can't handle. This is absolutely absurd. It gets worse. That's when, according to Sheriff Leeper, Allison grabbed his gun and fired one shot at the truck before speeding off. Leeper said Allison told police the reason he fired his gun was to get out of the whole situation. All right, so you're also a dumb guy because you assessed the situation and you thought that the way that I respond to someone throwing a bottle of water at me is to use deadly force. The bullet from Allison's gun hit a 5-year-old little girl in the pickup truck. And when Hale realized that his daughter had been shot, he began speeding to catch back up with the Murano. Hale also then pulled a gun. Hale is the guy in the pickup truck whose daughter has just been shot. Hale also pulled out a gun and fired 7 or 8 rounds in the direction of the Nissan. Sheriff Leeper said 3 of the bullets hit the car, with one of the bullets hitting a 14-year-old girl in the back seat through the lung. They shot each other's daughters because they're being a couple of macho assholes, a couple of morons who can't control themselves, who were never taught to count to 10 and take deep breaths before you rage out on somebody because of their own shortcomings as men, because of their own inability to control their infantile outbursts. Both of these men have daughters in the hospital with gunshot wounds today. Both fathers shot the other daughter. We move on. Anyway, that's the story. There you go. They were both arrested. The police finally got to them. Oh, and by the way, when they pulled over, the police made sure that they pulled over. And then instead of helping one another's daughters who had just been shot, which should have been the priority for any normal person, they began fighting in the middle of the road. The 2 men were like, "You okay, baby? I've been shot in the lung, Daddy. All right, hold on. I'm going to handle this." And then he goes, and they start fighting in the street, causing the police who were on the scene to not treat the 5-year-old girl with the gunshot wound or the 14-year-old girl with the gunshot wound, but break up the fight between the 2 idiot men. This is our world, man. This is why all I want to do is stay here, go through the Whataburger drive-thru every once in a while, hit up Kroger once a week, and then go do the radio show at iHeart. I have no interest to be back out in the world with any of you people, because it is now apparent to me that everybody is nuts, and any random stranger is potentially somebody who's going to just do some asshole thing and I'll be involved. God. All right, what else do we have? Daughter swap. Okay. Oh, here's the last one. All right, this is the last one. And then we'll jump in. We'll see what's been trending since we got here. This is interesting. So I'm going to read this because the other day I had talked about the movie Bros, which was a big move, a big attempt by Hollywood to create a romantic comedy, a rom-com with 2 homosexual leads. It's a gay men rom-com. Judd Apatow is involved. Billy Eichner is the star. It was really, I mean, it's something that Hollywood decided, we think there's an audience for this. And they had the pedigree with Apatow, and they had Billy Eichner, who was popular, and, they assumed it would be a big hit, and it was a massive bomb. It was an incredible bomb. $4.5 million is what it did. Here, I'll read you the story. And anyway, actually, hold on. Let me finish setting it up. So I had talked about, I'd done the story. It was trending a week or so ago, that Billy Eichner was at an award show, I think the MTV Awards or something like that. He blamed the lack of box office for Bros. He blamed the bombing of Bros on weirdo homophobes that won't go to the movies. Which, if you're a gay man, you don't know that the world is filled with weirdo homophobes. I mean, you didn't know this. I mean, when you made this movie, you should have been like, okay, we're not going to get any of the weirdo homophobes. Who we're going to get is, if we target properly, we can get the gay community, LGBTQ, all of that stuff. We can do that. So our expectations have to be here. The fact that it only did about $4.5 million has less to do with the fact that weirdo homophobes didn't go, because those people were never going, dude. Those people were never going, unless you didn't think they existed. But it was the gay community that didn't support it. They're the ones that didn't go see it. And now we're starting to see why. And I brought this up because my gay friend, actually, you know what? He's a chatter, and we had a nice little exchange about this. I'm not entirely sure he's out of the closet. So anyway, you want to chime in if you're in the chat room, because I'm talking about this conversation. Actually, I don't know if you're in the chat room today, but if you are and you want to chime in and say, yeah, this was me. So he responded to me when I said that, and he goes, "Hey, I saw Bros over the weekend," and he said to me that he doesn't think that the movie failed for these reasons that he thinks the movie failed because it just wasn't that great. It was way over the top, and he said, he didn't say preachy, but he used something else. I don't remember what the word was that he used to describe it. But he was a gay guy who, was interested in seeing this film, and he went and saw it, and he said that, look, the reason is just because it was too heavy-handed. That's what it was, heavy-handed. It was way too heavy-handed in the way that it dealt with, the homosexual lifestyle. It's almost like they were beating people. Now, I don't know. I didn't see the movie. But anyway, it's trending today because now there is another well-known LGBTQ writer who is saying why Bros bombed. The exact right number of people saw this gay rom-com is what this guy says. And he's a well-known gay writer. I can't find his name. I'm sorry. I'm not all that up on modern American homosexual literature, so I don't know the man's name. But his name is where is it? Isaac Grafstein. Okay, so here's what he writes. The algorithm knows I'm a man and that I'm gay. So I'm often served news about Britney Spears, bodybuilding videos, and more recently, nonstop ads for the Universal movie Bros, written by Billy Eichner. The film's poster features two men groping each other's jeaned butts. At this year's VMAs, Eichner took to the stage to urge audiences to see the movie, gushing that the film is, quote, making history as the first gay rom-com ever made by a major studio, and the first where every role is played by an openly LGBTQ actor. All right. Not one straight role. Oh, look at you. Look at you. The other side been complaining for centuries about representation. I'm just saying. It's all right. I don't care. That's fine. I'm just saying. It's interesting. Because, and I know this is a bit reductive, but if you were to say, look, here's what I love about this movie. There's not one gay dude in it. It's all straight dudes and straight women. There ain't no lesbians. That's what I love about this movie. Every single, you couldn't do that. And of course, the fair argument is, well, that's because that was every movie ever made. No, it wasn't. We talked about Montgomery Clift earlier. People didn't know he was gay, but there've been gay actors not. But I get what you're saying. You're talking about an attempt to normalize the lifestyle by representation. I get that. So we're not going to spend too much time on that part of it. The writer goes on to say, so when I settled into the theater with a friend, as the trailers for Whitney Houston's biopic I Want to Dance with Somebody played, I was ready to be wowed by Bros. The film follows Eichner's character Bobby, a mouthy podcaster, opening up an LGBTQ museum, and then in parentheses, cringe, and his relationship with Aaron, a chiseled lawyer with a penchant for group sex, portrayed by Luke McFarlane. The two meet cute in a nightclub and then must navigate the complex world of gay relationships, commitment issues, and insecurities. This sounds exactly like a rom-com. So far sounds like a rom-com. The only thing that's different about it is that it's, two male leads, which I don't have a problem with. No problem with this. You know what I do have a problem with? Rom-coms. We went over this before. I don't like rom-coms. I like 4 rom-coms. Look, I'll tell you something else. I get me, but I want you to let me finish. I want you to let me finish. I get very uncomfortable when I see depictions of 2 men making out. I get very uncomfortable when I see depictions of 2 men having sex in films and all that kind of stuff. I'm made to feel uncomfortable. But I'm also made to feel uncomfortable when a man and a woman are doing it. I hate that stuff. I fast forward through any kind of romantic subplot. If anybody who knows me, you know that the thing I hate most about movies is the stupid shoehorned romantic subplot. So I'm just across the board. And I don't really know if it says, you can't handle seeing 2 guys kiss? I can handle it. I'm not interested in it any more than I'm interested in seeing a guy and a girl kiss. In a movie, in an action film, when they do that break for about 15 minutes where you meet the action star's wife or 12-year-old daughter or whatever the case is, they always do that thing. And then there's like the romantic dinner to show that the action hero who's going to do some really crazy action-y stuff is also a nice, loving father. And there's a love scene with his wife and they're dancing on their anniversary. I fast forward through all of that shit. Has nothing to do with the sexual orientations of the people. It's just that, can we get to the bus chase? Can we get to the thing that I want? Tell you, it's why I consider 2 films. What did I just do? Oh boy. It's why I consider 2 films that everyone in the world think are the greatest films ever made. And I'm like, those movies suck. Jerry Maguire sucks. And Titanic sucks. Jerry Maguire was supposed to be, at least I was sold on the idea that Jerry Maguire is a movie about the sports agency, about the fast pace and the backstabbing and how rough and tumble the world of big-time sports agencies are. And it wasn't that. It was a little bit about that, but come on. Jerry Maguire was all about, you had me at hello. Oh, I felt lied to. I hated Jerry. I walked out of that movie. That movie sucked. That movie was the worst. Titanic, same thing. Wanted to see a boat hit an iceberg. I wanted to see what happened when people, I wanted to see I want to see depictions of how they reacted, what led up to it. I wanted to know the course they were charting. What did I get? I get Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet making out on the bow of a boat. I lied to. In fact, a funny story, I saw, well, you be the judge of whether it's funny or not. I saw Titanic on Christmas Day when it came out. It came out over Christmas, whatever year it was released. Saw it on Christmas Day with my wife at the time. And it's like a 3-hour movie, and I was very excited about it. I was like, oh, this is a cool story. This is interesting. Do you know that we've got a relative that's on the Titanic? You know that old thing? Because I do. Yeah, I'm related to the unsinkable Molly Brown. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't know how, but I am. Anyway, so we're seeing this movie and it's Christmas Day and we're about an hour and a half into it and there's no iceberg in sight. There's like, this is not going anywhere. I don't care about Jack. I don't care about this whole, what is about this pendant? I don't, it's all just such bullshit to me. I'm like, oh God, this movie. I actually turned to my wife. I said, do me a favor. They've got a Zaxxon game. Remember Zaxxon? Whoop, 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 whoop. Remember the big old arcade game, Zaxxon? They had a Zaxxon game out in the lobby. I go, do me a favor. I'm going to go play Zaxxon. Because at that point, I hadn't played it in like 15 years. I'm like, I'm going to go play Zaxxon for a while. Would you just like come and get me when it starts to hit the iceberg? And she did. And I was out there playing Zaxxon. And the door opens up. They're going to hit the iceberg. I'm like, oh, I got a high game going. Anyway, that's I felt a little bit ripped off. Back to the Bros review from a gay man, a gay writer. There are moments when Bros is funny. a self-deprecating lampoon of gay life. But mostly it's preachy, but mostly it's a preachy, self-indulgent dumpster fire. Now, my friend who's chatter with us, he described it as being heavy-handed. So now this is the second gay person who saw the movie who said that too. He goes, "Oh, it's funny, man. Billy Eichner's funny. There are funny things, but it's so heavy-handed." So this guy says there are moments when Bros is funny, a self-deprecating lampoon of gay life, but mostly it's preachy, self-indulgent dumpster fire. At one point, Bobby harangues Aaron's mother about the need to teach her second grade students about queer history. The 2 long hours are replete with partisan finger waving, lamentations about erasure, and performative apologies from Bobby for being a cis white guy. Half of this alleged comedy is devoted to Bobby's cranky monologues. Anyway, so I just think that's interesting because the original reason that Billy Eichner was putting out there that people didn't like the movie Bros or that they didn't go see the movie Bros is because anybody who wasn't interested in seeing it is just a homophobic weirdo, as he called everybody. But now there's I'm seeing a number of gay people. I don't know many gay guys. I mean, I don't know many guys. I really don't. I got like 3 friends. mostly they're married or but I think that's an interesting perspective on why it bombed, because it had the pedigree. It's got Judd Apatow. He got the movie made based on his name rec and his track record, but people are saying it's heavy-handed. I have not seen it. Let's see. Let's go into the chat room, because I imagine they're stirring it up in the chat room over this. I can never tell if you people are addressing me in the chat room or if you're just fighting with yourselves. All right. Al's my brother in the love of Zaxxon. Yeah. No, I haven't seen. Look, the last time I saw Zaxxon was in the lobby of the Water Tower Place theaters in Chicago. And that was 23 years ago now, 23, maybe 24 years ago. So I imagine you'd be hard pressed to find Zaxxon anywhere. But I'll tell you, if you find me a Zaxxon, I'll play it. Not particularly good at Zaxxon, but I did like Zaxxon. Adam says, I've listened to many gay men discuss it on Pop Culture Happy Hour, and there are many valid critiques. Overall, they still enjoyed it, though. You can be critical of your own culture. Yeah, well, I think that's important. I think that if you're not able to be critical of your own culture, then you're not being honest. You're just not being. And nobody is. Well, we don't. Let's check in and see what other. I don't really want to go that deep into it, because it's. I was never going to see that movie anyway. I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to see it any more than I'm going to see whatever the latest Ryan Gosling Emma Stone pairing is. Right? I'm not going to see that either. And it has nothing to do with me being a homophobic weirdo. It has to do with me being someone who despises romance in films. Not always, right? Remember The Notebook? I love The Notebook. I like Love Actually. There are certain movies that somehow penetrate my ice cold heart in this area. There are a few of them. I love When Harry Met Sally, but that's not a romance. That's a comedy, right? That's more there's not a whole. They don't stop down from the comedy in When Harry Met Sally for large portions of time to show 2 people making love. I hate that. I probably didn't mind it when I was young, because again, remember, all we had was Playboy and National Geographic. So when there'd be a sexy scene in a movie, maybe at 13 or 14, I'd watch it. But now I'm a grown up. I've had sex. It's like, I don't know. I don't do it like that. I'm not that good. This is only just reminding me of how awful I am at it. So let's just move on. All right, let's see what else is trending. Oh boy, this is interesting. This could go either way. Don Henley is trending in the political column. This could go either way. Don Henley could be trending because he's like, let's just use Trump as the barometer. He could be trending because he's like, Trump's a monster. Or he could be trending because he's like, Trump ain't that bad. So let's see. Why is Don Henley trending? Don Henley is trending because someone altered the audio on a video to make it appear as if Eagles fans were booing Jill Biden. Here's the real clip from the NFL. All right, I don't know what this is. All right, we'll give this a listen. I don't know what's going on here. I don't care. All right, I'm just glad Don Henley's not dead. By the way, fun fact, Don Henley lives around here somewhere. Don Henley lives in this neighborhood, or at least he did a period of time. Don Henley's a Dallas guy. He moved. He's got a house here. He's got family here, wife, and all that. And I first came to know this because I saw Bruce Springsteen here about 20 years ago. And he's like, hey, I'm going to bring out a local boy. Hey, he just lives down the block. And then Don Henley came out and he and Bruce did a whole bunch of like Eagles songs. The E Street Band doing Eagles songs was actually pretty freaking cool. It was way horns. Like you don't expect horns and power horns, in an Eagles song, but that was pretty great. And so Don Henley lived, I was told at that time that he lived in Highland Park somewhere around here. I don't know if he still does, but who knows? All right, let's see what else is trending. Oh, another fun fact, George Michael lived right down the street. I know you talk about that all the time. Now I've lived here for a year, and I'm like, it doesn't even impress me anymore that's George Michael from Wham's house. Like kitty corner. Seriously, you walk to the end of our driveway, I can see George Michael's driveway or his old driveway. Not really. There's like bushes in the way, but you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If I was 20 feet tall, I could probably see right into his house. So we got two in this neighborhood. We have two rock stars, Don Henley and George Michael. George Michael's dead. He don't live here no more. And two football team owners. The owner of the Cowboys lives right down at the end of our block, and then the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Hunts, live right on the other corner. Isn't that weird that there's a neighborhood where like two guys that own, like if the Chiefs ever played the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, imagine what that block would be like right down the street. Like, well, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of an interesting little vibe going on where you got the Hunts who own the Kansas City Chiefs and then the Joneses right here who own the Cowboys. Josh Gordon has been released from the Tennessee Titans practice squad, so he's out there. Boy, that's a guy. That's a complicated thing. Josh Gordon was a super talented wide receiver, but he couldn't stop smoking pot. He couldn't stop smoking pot. He kept failing drug tests. So he kept getting suspended for violating the NFL's rules on weed. His career was completely destroyed because he smoked pot. And apparently when he smoked pot, he was a really good football player. I mean, it didn't like hurt his performance. And certainly we know that it's not a performance enhancer. So, I mean, I don't know what the problem is. I never got why, we demonize Josh Gordon to this extent. His best years as a player have been wasted because he's sitting. Now, some of it falls on him. I like pot. Pot's not addictive. I smoked a lot of pot, especially when I lived where it was legal. A lot of it. I come down here. I don't know anybody who's got pot anymore. I can't get it. I haven't smoked pot in a year. Well, that's not true. But, for the most part, it's not addictive. You can just quit. It's habitual. Like if you do it, if you get used to it, like if it's something that you like, I just can't fall asleep. I need to take a couple of hits off a joint and I need to sink into my chair. And that's how I fall asleep. That can become a habit, but it's not like you go into withdrawals where you're vomiting and you need, ice water, feed me ice chips. That doesn't happen with weed. When you don't have weed, you just don't have weed. And you're like, man, I wish I had some weed. That's the worst of it. So completely destroyed this guy's career over something that is now legal in multiple NFL markets. Like first it was the Broncos, but it's legal in Illinois. So Chicago Bears players, can buy weed. I don't know what other cities, but Washington, D.C. So you got the Redskins. Oh boy. I mean, the Commandos. I know it's Commanders, but I like Commandos better. So it's like on the one hand with Josh Gordon, I'm like, oh my God, these draconian views on what marijuana truly is have destroyed this young man's career. But then on the other hand, I'm like, dude, stop smoking weed. You've got all of this money on the line. If somebody said, we'll pay you $15 million a year if you just don't smoke weed, I'll be like, all righty, let's do this. Where do I sign? I mean, smoking weed's good. You know, it's nice if you like it. It certainly makes a silly movie seem a lot better than it is. But for $15 million for wide receiver money in the NFL, are you out of your mind? Why couldn't he stop? I mean, why did he keep what? So anyway, he was given his chance again. He's back in the league. He was signed by the Tennessee Titans, and he never quite made an impact. He was assigned to the practice squad, and today he was released. So he's out there. If anybody wants to, I'll tell you, my Bears, I'll take them. We got nobody. We got like the worst wide receiver core. We got the worst offensive line. We got the worst wide receiver core. I'll take them. Let's chuck it down. Just go ahead. Just let Justin Fields just chuck it the length of the field and let Josh Gordon run under it. I'll take them. What else do we have here? John Oliver is trending. I don't watch John Oliver anymore. I used to love John Oliver. And I still do. I love John Oliver. I think he's really funny. But I don't watch John Oliver anymore because I don't watch any of that stuff anymore. I won't watch The Daily Show. I won't watch John Oliver. I won't watch Bill Maher. I can't. I can't watch any of that stuff anymore. I'm just so tired of people making jokes about, here's what we should do. Now here's a joke. And then the Republicans did this, and here's a joke. And it's just, stop it. It's not funny anymore. It's not funny. It's actually concerning the way the world is going. And all you're doing is sitting here, making these long speeches with punchline after punchline after punchline after punchline. And you're getting rich and ain't nothing changing. It's just so not interesting anymore. It's just like, all right, yeah. So John Oliver is trending because apparently he dedicated his big top story on his show. He does that. He does really good deep dives on things. I've seen some of them recently, whereas I used to tune into his show every week. I haven't done that ever, but I have seen a couple clips of some of the things that he's done. He's trending today because apparently he did a whole deep dive on transgender youth. So there you go. And he's trending. And he's trending because some people are like, that was awesome. And some people were like, they're libtard. So it's whatever. It's what you make it. I don't know. I won't watch it. I don't care. I already have my thoughts on that. Although if you were listening earlier, maybe I should watch it because as I admitted, the conversation, most of the conversation about these culture war issues, they take place in an echo chamber that I don't typically hang out in. I don't hang out in the right echo chamber. I don't hang out in the left echo chamber. I just kind of do me and formulate my own half-baked opinions. So this is what you got, folks. This is what you're tuned into. Who else do we got? Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang is trending. Why is Clubber Lang trending? Michael B. Jordan seems to be involved in this Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang was the character that Mr. T played in Rocky 3. 3/3/20. Is there a Clubber Lang movie? Is Michael B. Jordan starring in a Clubber Lang movie? Wait, what is this? Hold on, let's see. First look at Creed 3 starring Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors. I don't know. Is Apollo Creed's kid, which is what Creed is, the movie franchise Creed is. It's Apollo Creed. It's Apollo Creed's kid all grown up fighting. Is Apollo Creed's kid in Creed 3 going to fight Clubber Lang's kid? So is it going to be like Mr. T's kid? I don't know, but it's trending. All right, that's it. We're done. We're good. We're out of time. We gave you way more than the promise to. Once again, folks, I want to let everybody know that coming up this week, Friday, Mansplaining moves to a special time. We're going to be on Friday nights. We're very excited. Need your help. Need your help if you want to participate. We're going to need callers. So again, I will tell you what I told you at the beginning of the show. If you like to call in and participate, it's Loveline. If you have an issue that you want to have Dr. Schwartz and myself pick apart, hit me up right there. Mansplainingradio@gmail.com. That's mansplainingradio@gmail.com. That's mansplainingradio@gmail.com. Tell me you want to participate. And then if you have something, if you have an issue, don't tell me. Don't tell me what the issue is because I want to be surprised. Although I might need, because it might be bad. So the phone screener would do this, right? The phone screener would be like, what do you want to talk about? So maybe I do need to hear the issue. We don't need to go in depth about it, but maybe just I'll let you know if it's a good one or not. And if you just want to participate and you don't really have anything and you want to do a little acting, I can give you an issue that we would like to discuss that you can then just, formulate into a question. We need the help because we're worried about the move to Friday being a new time slot. We already struggle enough. We've been, knock wood, we have been lucky. We've been lucky with organic calls, especially on Sundays. Sundays has been great. We have used some people to help us out and move the show along, and we're grateful to you, and thank you so much for the participation. But Sundays in particular, we've been very shocked by the amount of calls that we've received. So people are responding on Sunday. Saturday's harder. Saturday's a much harder audience. So we're worried about Friday. We're going to primetime show. So if you want to help us out, man, I would really appreciate it. Just let me know and we'll get it all set up because we want to do call for 2 hours on Friday. We want some really banging topics for us to chew on because the whole point of the show is really that Schwartz and I, we hang out and we go to bars and we sit at a bar and we just make fun of everybody and we have fun. And we went, you know what? You're kind of funny. It's like, I realized you're really funny. And, you have no problem knocking me off my high horse. This is kind of an interesting chemistry. So that's what we're trying to do. But we're just trying to sort of format that around the old Loveline idea. Show is called Mansplaining. Typically it's on Saturday and Sunday evenings, 9 to 11. Right now on 97.1 The Freak here in Dallas. Big plans for it, both us and iHeart. So keep your fingers crossed. But we do need your help. We do need your help for this special Friday show. If you want to participate, let me know. Mansplainingradio@gmail.com. We'll also take your emails. Like maybe you just want to do it as an email. That's fine. That's fine as well. That's we had a really funny one from one of you. I don't have the name because you didn't give me your real name. You just gave me "Don't It Make My Brown Eye Toot" is what you put in there. His girlfriend farts and he doesn't know. He's like, come on, is this a deal breaker? I love her, but she's farting and I can't handle it. Talked about that a little bit. So if you'd rather just participate through email, you can do that as well. Mansplainingradio@gmail.com. Mansplainingradio@gmail.com. But we're looking for people who want to participate on the air. And, we're not going to make you wait on hold or anything. We'll set it up for you. It'll be good. There you go. So help us out if you can. I'm going to be pushing this all week. Remember how I used to push for tips? Yeah. Well, now we're going to be pushing for this. So help us make this a success if you can. Appreciate you. And that's it. We'll be back tonight for Pillow Talk. Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. Pillow Talk Monday through Thursday. Me and James Aloysius Parker. Pillow Talk. Oh, there was something I wanted to talk about on Pillow Talk tonight that we stumbled across on today's show. Do you guys remember what it was? Oh, also with the whole mansplaining thing, you don't have to just go to the mansplainingradio@gmail.com. You ain't got to just do that. You can just send me an email. Send me an email if you know my email, or if we're friends on Facebook or Twitter or whatever that is, you can hit me up. Just DM me. And we'll get it all worked out that way. Yeah. All right. I don't know why this isn't playing. Why isn't it playing? Come on. There you go. I didn't have it turned up. Jeff Glenn says, first of all, I don't like, what is with the way you're friend? So now it's just Fridays, no Saturday and Sunday. No, it's still Saturday and Sundays. We're just doing a show on Friday because our Saturday show is being preempted by the Mavericks. I said that earlier. Come on, Jeff. I love you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And then, we're doing a show Sunday. There's a show Sunday as well. But we're on Friday instead of Saturday this week.